Ester Hernandez grew up in California's San Joaquin Valley. She is the daughter of Mexican immigrants who came to the United States in search of work. Her parents worked on fields in the grape farms. She first got involved in art during her studies at the University of California, Berkeley, where she graduated from. While studying anthropology at the university, she shifted her focus to the visual arts and worked with emerging Chicano artists, specifically the Mujeres Muralistas. The Mujeres Muralistas were a group of female artists who created large-scale murals that depicted the social concerns and everyday life of the Mexican community of San Francisco. To better understand SunMad, during the 1950s and 60s, there was a period of protest by African Americans known as the Civil Rights Movement. During this period, African Americans fought against the racial discrimination they had suffered from for years. The protests were led by Martin Luther King Jr., the leader of the Civil Rights Movement. Martin Luther King Jr. fought for equal rights among all races and ethnicities in the United States. Mexican Americans faced discrimination and started a civil rights movement of their own. Led by Cesar Chavez, Mexican Americans fought for better working conditions in the farm fields, where the majority of them worked, together with Dolores Huerta, a civil rights activist. Cesar Chavez founded the National Farm Workers Association. His organization would later merge with another organization to become the United Farm Workers. Chavez was inspired by the nonviolent protests of Martin Luther King Jr. and rallied his members to follow King's example. The UFW was successful in securing contracts that gave workers better safety and sanitary conditions, such as rest periods and toilets in the fields. The UFW was also successful in securing contracts that required job security and pension plans for retired workers. While Chavez was a charismatic leader, he was not without his faults. In a 2012 interview with Frank Bardak, an activist and founder of People's Park in Berkeley, California, Bardak reveals that he applied for a position in the UFW back in 1971. He claimed that Chavez refused to listen to other members of the union and pushed his own agenda. According to Bardak himself, quote, "Chavez has been surrounded by yes people for a very long time. There was no tradition of dissent within the union. Chavez considered their power a threat to his control of the union and opposed it." End quote. History and creation of the artwork. Ester Hernandez learned of pesticides that were being used on grape farms in the town of Dinuba. These harmful pesticides found their way into the ground and contaminated the town's water resource. She felt a responsibility to bring this issue to the forefront and created SunMad in 1981. Hernandez targeted the SunMade Corporation because the raisins that were produced on the farm in Dinuba went to SunMade for processing. Hernandez chose a screen print format because it was affordable, can be circulated easily, and the bold use of color and graphics could reach a wide audience. The SunMade Raisin Company was known to many because of their mascot that has become known as the SunMade Girl. SunMad was created in San Francisco, the birthplace of Ester Hernandez, and where the Mexican-American civil rights movement started. SunMad criticizes the unsafe practices of corporations such as SunMade. It reveals that not everything we assume is healthy is safe for us. I will interpret this artwork through critical race theory and iconography. SunMad was created to advocate for Mexican Americans working in the farm fields. It was created during a time in which African Americans and Mexican Americans stood up for their rights and fought against discrimination. No one would stand up for Mexican Americans because the white majority viewed them as invaders, lazy, and uneducated. Because no one stood up for them, Mexican Americans banded together and advocated for themselves. In terms of iconography, this work mocks a famous image of which this work is based on. It turns the sun-made girl into a symbol of death and destruction. Rather than representing sunshine and happiness, it represents death and misery. By using a symbol seen in pop culture, Hernandez is able to easily communicate the message that sun-made is responsible for death and disease. It is something you definitely don't want to be associated with, especially if you are a food company. Line. The arms of the skeleton are pointing downward, and the great basket is a horizontal line. The sun is made up of small white triangles. The line that makes up the sun is organic. Color. SunMat has a warm color palette that uses primary colors. It primarily uses red and yellow, but also uses white, brown, and green. The red and yellow contrast strongly with each other. Texture. SunMat is a screen print and, as a result, is flat. However, the shirt the skeleton is wearing can be made of cloth and feel soft. The basket has a wooden and firm texture, but isn't very hard. Shape. The grape basket has a rectangular shape. The grapes and sun are circles. The little white lines that make up the sun are triangles. Space. The image of the skeleton, the sun, and the text all take up positive space. The only negative space are the corners and space between the raisins part of the text. Balance. SunMat is struck with symmetrical balance. There is equal visual weight between the two sides. Rhythm and repetition. The artwork lacks rhythm, but has repetition with the green grapes and the triangles of the interior of the sun. Proportion and scale. The size of the grapes is proportionally smaller than the skeleton. In addition, the sun has been shrunk down to fit in scale with the skeleton. Emphasis. The main focal point of this artwork is the skeleton in the middle. The bright sun behind her indicates her importance. Unity and variety. The yellow and red give this artwork unity because they are the main colors used. They add to the warm color palette. The green and brown give this artwork variety. The artwork I've created is titled Stronger Together. It is a collage of 4 civil rights leaders. The people in the picture include Martin Luther King Jr., Rosa Parks, Cesar Chavez, and Yuri Kochiyama. All 4 of these people have contributed to the advancement of civil rights for minorities in this country. I was inspired to make this collage to advocate for the equal treatment of minorities in this country, much like Ester Hernandez was. The main message of this collage is to show that change can happen when we fight together. We must join forces if we intend to make an impact. However, it's important that we do not violate the rights of others, or else we are no better than the bad guy. In addition, it is highly important that we have a specific goal and plan of how to achieve that goal. For a goal without a plan is just a dream. Thank you for listening.